come, and that is I need to talk to my spouse or my husband or my wife before I do this, which they should, actually. So the truth is, you should never, no matter how tempting it is, make one-legged presentations. It's a waste of everybody's time, in fact, and it's a waste of the lead, too. So another thing that's important is that you have to mention the name of the spouse 3 different times in your phone presentation. 3 different times. So you mention it when you verify who the beneficiary is, that's the first time. Then you mention it when you close on the time slot, that's the second time. So great, what would be a good time to deliver your certificate and explain the benefits that you're entitled to? John, are you and Mary home tomorrow between 6 and 7? That's the second time. And the third time is when you're closing on the appointment. So when you ask them to grab a pen or a paper and write this down. You're going to say, well, my name is Byron, I work for AIL, we work in cooperation with the union, and John, I'll see you and Mary tomorrow between 6 and 7, right? Here's another thing that can really add to the show ratio of the appointments. I find this to be very, very effective, actually. This is off script, but I'll explain it to you in this training video, and that is this, that if you know you're working in an area that you're very familiar with, you can always ask for directions. For example, even though most of us use a GPS today, either in our vehicles, it's already there, or our phones have GPS, right? There's many people that don't use GPSs, and they still just rely on good old map books or just knowing the area very well. So I'll find that if I ask John, for example, let's say he lives in Oakville, okay? And I know sort of where he lives, I'll either verify that with him at the end or ask him for a little bit more direction. So here's how it would sound. So John, could you please grab pen and paper? You ready? All right, so my name is Byron. I work for AIL. We work in cooperation with your union, and I'll see you and Mary tomorrow between 6 and 7. 123 Main Street. Question for you, John. Is that near the Oakville Place Mall? It is. Oh, yes. I know exactly where it is. Now, is that behind the mall or on the other side of the highway? How do I get there? And then he's going to explain to me how to get to his house. And he'll probably spend another few seconds, half a minute to a minute, telling me how to get to his house. I find that when I do that, my show ratio on appointments is a lot higher because all of a sudden, this person wrote down my name, wrote down the time I'm coming, heard the fact that I needed him and his spouse there because I said her name or his name 3 times. And he also gave me directions as to how to get there. So it's very hard for that person not to show up. So what happens is I basically force the show ratio higher by asking those questions at the end. So that's something that you can do as well. Now, let's talk about the standard rebuttal because I just had a phone call where there's no objections at all. And the truth is this, if it was always that easy, then I actually probably wouldn't need to have this training video done. The truth is there's going to be objections, and we have a strategy to overcome those objections, and that's pretty effective, in fact. Now, what I'm going to use right now is the standard rebuttal document that is going to be handed to you on the first day of training with your binder, and it's going to be something that you need to utilize when you're working hard cards. So the first thing is that there's many objections that you can receive on the phone. Most common ones are, can you just mail it? Is this insurance? I am not interested. Why do you have to come to my house? Will you try to sell me something? I already have insurance. Or I don't want it, they'll say. No matter which of these objections they say, there's a standard answer to these objections. And that's why we use a standard rebuttal. And the standard rebuttal is basically standard. We say the exact same thing for every single one of these objections. Now, the best way to answer a question or a statement is with another question. So no matter what the objection is, and it could come, folks, it could come while you're confirming the address, because at that point, if you're confirming someone's address, some of them will immediately think they're coming. They're confirming the address, and that's why they're coming. So they're coming because they're confirming the address. So you may get the objection at that point and say, well, why do you have to come to my house? Or why don't you just mail it, right? So I'm going to go one by one on these, using the standard rebuttal and giving you a little bit of extra to say on top of this that is going to make it very effective to use the standard rebuttal along with your hard card script. And by the way, the union and association script is pretty much the same, only that you would replace the word union with association, but it's essentially the same script, okay? All right, so on the standard rebuttal, so the first question we're going to ask them is, John, were you in the meeting where this was explained? So whatever the objection is, we answer with a question. Most will answer no. Why? Because 90% of union members do not attend union meetings. Now, the truth is, there was a meeting where this was explained at the union hall, but 90% of members do not attend the union meetings. So it's likely they're just going to say, no, I didn't go to the meeting where this was explained. And then we're going to ask another question, which is a follow-up from the first question, which is going to, again, give us the same answer. So, John, do you go to any union meetings? They're going to say again, no. At that point, I say, okay, let me take a step back and tell you exactly what's going on. So what I'm doing now is I take a tone of, I want to inform you, I want to educate you as to what this process is, because clearly, you didn't go to the meeting where this was explained. You actually don't even go to union meetings. So allow me now to explain to you, John, the member, right, what is going on, okay? So it's very important that the tone and what you're transmitting through your tone is, I want to inform you. I want to inform you. I want you to be educated on what this process is. So that's what you need to transmit. You're not going to say that, but you need to transmit that feeling over the phone when you're explaining this to them, right? And then you would just go into the rebuttal. So here's the thing. When it comes to the standard rebuttal, I expect everyone to know this by heart. And though I want everybody to have it in front of them, it has to be at the tip of your tongue, because what happens is when somebody gives you an objection on the phone and you don't have an answer for it, it's basically a downward spiral from that point, and it's very likely you're not going to set that appointment. And you'll have added yet one more lead to the ever-growing callback stack of leads, because all of a sudden you got a hold of someone but you didn't book them. And see, that should not make sense, and here's why it should not make sense. We are contacting people that send back a response card from their organization, through their organization. So that means an individual, so a union member, association member, received a letter in the mail, opened the letter, read the letter, found a writing utensil, wrote down his or her information, date of birth, address, home telephone number, cell phone, in some cases email, beneficiary information, tore off the reply card, put it in an envelope, return envelope, postage paid return envelope, found a mailbox, and sent it back. It does not make any sense for anyone not to give us an appointment. Now here's the truth. The truth is that we have about a 3 to 4% not interested on the phone. So if there's 100 cards and 100 leads generated from those cards, of course, you know what? 3 to 4 of those should be not interested on the phone. I get it. I can live with that. Anything long, 5%. I'll do 5% not interested. Anything more than 5%, phone presentation is broken. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. That phone presentation is not, it's an injustice actually to the system, right? And it needs to be pulled actually. That person should not be on the phone doing it, because they are basically wasting resources. So what's important to realize is that all of these standard objections, common objections, can be handled by the standard rebuttal, and that's what's called standard rebuttal. So let's go back to it. So if they say, well, can't you just mail it? If they say that on the phone, right? The correct answer to that immediately is the mailing has already been done. So those of you who are watching this, common objections, it says, can you just mail it? Write this down. The mailing has already been done. Why do I say that? Because the mailing has been done. They already got the letter in the mail and decided to respond to the mail out. And then we follow up with the questions. immediately. So, John, the mailing has already been done. Now, can I ask you a question? Were you at the meeting where this was explained? No? Okay. Do you go to any union meetings? No? Okay. John, let me take a step back and tell you exactly what's going on, okay? Simply what's going on is the following. Your union, the Iron Workers Local 721, is having a group enrollment. During the enrollment, certain benefits open up to the members. One of them is the $4,000 accidental policy, which has been taken out for you at no additional cost. Your certificate is in my possession. My job is simple. All we do is deliver your certificate, get your signed beneficiary designation, and explain the benefits you're entitled to. Once again, would between 6 and 7 be good time to see you and Mary? So the key here is that at the end, I am closing again on a time slot. So I explain what's going on. There's a group enrollment that is union. My job is simple. I have his AD&D certificate. I need to deliver that, explain the benefits he's entitled to, and get the signed beneficiary designation, right? And once again, is tomorrow between 6 and 7 a good time. The key here is I'm always closing the time slot, again. So that's what to say when they say, can you just mail it? The mailing has been done. You ask the 2 questions, and then you go through the rebuttal, and you close on the time slot. Those are the steps. Let's do it again. Is this insurance? Yes, it is, John. But let me ask you, were you at the meeting where this was explained? The reason why we say yes, it is because, first of all, it is. The name of the company is American Income Life Insurance Company. So, I mean, there's no secret as to what we do. They know it, obviously. We know it, you know. So the answer is yes, and then you rebuttal back with the questions. Were you at the meeting where this was explained? Do you go to union meetings? No, no. Okay, let me explain to you what's going on. Here's another thing you can add before you close on a time slot. So let me just do it for you right now. So simply what's going on, John, is the following. Your union is having a group enrollment. During the enrollment, certain benefits open up to the members. One of them is the $4,000 accidental policy that has been taken out for you at no additional cost. Your certificate is in my possession. My job is simple. All we do is come out, deliver your certificate, get your signed beneficiary designation, and explain the benefits you're entitled to. This is what you add. And you add this. You can write this down. Also, we will require for you to fill out our union officer report form. That goes back to the union to let them know we were there and we did our job. So once again, would between 8 and 9 be a good time to see you and Mary? And I'm closing back on a time slot. So when they say, is this insurance? It is. It's an accidental insurance, actually, isn't it? And we can say yes. It's an AD&D policy, which is true. It's an AD&D policy. But let me ask you, John, were you at the meeting where this was explained? Do you go to any union meetings? You don't? Simply what's going on is the following. You go through the whole rebuttal again. You add that line that says we need the report form to be completed to let them know I was there and I did my job. And then you close in a time slot again. No matter what the objection is, the last sentence is the closing sentence, and it has to be on a time slot. Always. Always, always. The next rebuttal says, not interested. I love this one, actually. Because the answer to that is, not interested in what? This has already been done for you. Now, John, can I ask you a question? Were you at the meeting where this was explained? No. Do you go to union meetings? No. You go to the same rebuttal and you close on the time slot again. So when they say not interested, first of all, your reaction should be one of shock, because not interested? What do you mean? It's already been done for you. Meaning there's nothing to be not interested about, because this has already been done. What you need to understand, any agent watching this, is that they are covered either way. The $4,000 or $3,000 AD&D insures the member whether we see them or not. So if we don't meet them, let's say they are legitimately not interested to meet with anybody, which is fine, they're still covered by that $4,000 AD&D. So if that person, God forbid, dies the next day in an accident, our company, American Income Life, will send a check of $4,000 to their estate. So it is important to realize that we're insuring everybody in the group, whether they send back the card or not. So it's not something they cannot be interested in, because it's covered, it's done, it's already done for them. Because see, to me, not interested would mean if, let's say that person does die in an accident, and American Income Life sends them a check for $4,000, are they not going to be interested in cashing that check? I don't think so. You see? So the key here is to simply flip it in a way so they understand it, that it's already been done for you. My job is just to deliver and explain the benefits you're entitled to, and I just need to know when a good time for you and Mary is. And at the end, again, you can always say the line, also, there's a report form we need you to complete, a union officer report form we need you to complete to let the union know I was there and I did my job, right? So not interested, answer to that. John, not interested in what? This has actually already been done for you. You're covered already for this $4,000 AD&D. And then go through the standard rebuttal again. Another one that is not here actually, but I'm going to add it here, and we should add it actually, we're going to add it to the common objections, is why does my wife or husband have to be here? It's a very simple answer to that, and the reason for that, the answer to that is, well, first of all, John, they need to be there because we need their signature on their certificate. When we give the member the AD&D, the group AD&D, we always give the spouse an individual AD&D. So that's the signature we need from them. Also, they're the beneficiary. If something happens to you, John, they need to know how to claim. So those are the two stock answers when it comes to that objection or question, why do they have to be here? The reason why they have to be there, John, is because they are your beneficiary. Also, we require their signature on their certificate. And should something, God forbid, happen to you, they need to understand how to claim on these benefits for you, right? And that answer usually satisfies that objection 99% of the time, okay? So, why do you have to come to my house? That's a simple one. The reason why we need to come to your house, John, is to deliver, explain the benefits you're entitled to. Can I ask you a question though? Were you at the meeting where this was explained? No. Do you go to your minutes? Same thing, same rebuttal, same closing question. Will you try to sell me something? So this one here, what I say is there's benefits you're entitled to that you may qualify for. However, can I ask you a question? Were you at the meeting where this was explained? Same thing, you're getting the point, right? I already have insurance. John, that's great. Can I ask you a question? Were you at the meeting where this was explained? No? Do you go to your meetings? No? Same thing. And I don't want it, which is the same as I'm not interested. I say to that, it's already been done for you. This has already been done for you at no cost, right? Which is the AD&D policy. So the key to this, folks, is to have it flow immediately, so that whatever the objection or the question on the phone is, you have an immediate answer. And it has to be that you're going to do it without thinking, so that it flows really well. A lot of the times, what makes a difference between booking and not booking on the phone is the confidence with which the person is speaking, trying to book the appointment. So if you're flaky in your answers and you're not on top of your game when it comes to answering the member questions and the objections, then it's likely going to result in the person not wanting to set the appointment, or one of those, what I call the ever-growing callback stack of leads. That is not good, because ultimately this is somebody who consciously replied to us. I've yet had an unconscious member reply to us, consciously reply to us. So we need to then ensure that we do our part, which is making a presentation to them about the benefits they're entitled to. The truth is this, after we make a presentation, whether they purchase or not, every member is thankful for the information. And we have to get it to that point where everybody's living a busy life. We understand that. Everybody has things to do, and work, and family, and kids' activities, and all that. But there's always time that we can find to make sure we do our part. Only because it's too important for some of these families. The protection that we're going to offer is the only protection they may have. So it's too important that we do our job in making sure that we are delivering that presentation. I'm not saying we have to sell them all the time, because we're not supposed to sell everyone that we see. We have ratios. We have a 33% to 40% closing ratio on union members. We have a 35 to a 40% closing ratio on child safe, and we have a 40 to 50% closing ratio on referrals. So it's never going to be 100%. But you got to get in front of them. And how you get in front of them and how you get good at getting in front of them is by making sure that on the phone you're doing things right. But on the phone, you are as strong as you can be. So that wraps up the